We had a tremendous week of practice on both sides of the ball in trying to make sure that we were prepared mentally as well as physically for a really tough football game at Iowa. And then what we told the guys all week was that we belonged, and then second thing is it's got to be a 60-minute game, and we have to try to get it to the fourth quarter with an opportunity to win. And if we did that, we'll see what happens and let the chips fall where they may. And obviously we were able to get it into the fourth quarter, and the guys did a phenomenal job of finishing the game. We talked all week. Our guys are always going to play hard. Even the first couple games this season, even though we made a lot of mistakes, our guys really play hard. But the thing that we really emphasized was playing fast. And without question, our guys played exceptionally fast in all facets of the game on Saturday. So we're really pleased with the way the guys handled a really tough non-conference slate, playing three unbelievably tough games, and hopefully we'll learn from each of those experiences as we head in and we turn the page quickly on this non-conference schedule and get ready for Valley play here in 2 weeks. So obviously there's good in everything, and there's obviously some poor or bad in everything. We'll clear up some of those mistakes and stuff, but the one thing that we're not going to be able to change it, I'm disappointed, but Nick DeLuca is going to have season-ending surgery this week. My heart goes out to Nick. He's been playing his tail off injured for the last 2 weeks because he wants to play with his teammates, wants to play with his brothers, but in the long haul, his shoulder was just not going to hold up over an 11 whatever game season. And when that thing keeps sublexing in and out, the best interest for Nick is to get the surgery done this week. So we'll move forward. The next man will be up, as it always is here. But my heart goes out to a guy that was hurting, as you guys could tell, the last 2 games that he played. But that shows you the type of character, the type of young man Nick is, and we'll apply for a medical red shirt and have hopes that he'll be able to return for the 2017 season. So with that, I'll take questions.
Coach, why the delay on Nick's surgery? Was there...
Well, the biggest thing is we thought maybe he could play through it. We thought maybe there was an opportunity, because some guys have been able to do this. Now, his surgery is probably a little different than others, but when it was sublexing in and out, now you just need to get it done. And we also are aware of basically what the NCAA rule is of the 30% that where you could still apply for a medical red shirt, and he wanted to try to play, bottom line. And we noticed, even as a staff, that there were some things that obviously were hard for him to do these last 2 weeks, and I credit Nick for giving it an effort and saying I want to play. And after talking with Nick again after the game and talking with Dr. Pyatt and our medical staff, it was determined that this was the best course for him.
Chance he'll go pro?
It's something we'll sit down and talk about with his family, but with the severity of the injury and the longevity of that surgery, I don't think he'd be able to have the opportunity to play in some of those bowl games, and that's where I know you can get noticed an awful lot, but something that he and his family will have to decide.
What kind of timeline are you told on recovery here?
4 months before they'd let you really do anything, and normally 6 months. So in that 4 to 6 months, obviously every individual is probably a little bit different in how they recover, but Doc Pyatt has told me minimum of 4 months, which kind of gets him into that second after the first of the year, which is probably tough to do all of the things that Carson, Kyle, Billy did and in preparation, and then more likely 6.
You've lost your best player almost every year in situations like this. What have you learned from that?
Murphy's Law. Yeah. And it was funny. Not funny. 2014, we sat in here in the spring when Gus Bradley came and talked to our football team and talked to everybody at a Bison Nation gathering. And he came in here and looked at all our guys and said, what are you guys going to do when Murphy hits? And what can go wrong will go wrong at the least opportune time. And it's hit for us the last few years. It's hit every year, you're right. Dating back to as long as I can remember, it's hit us every year. But everybody else has got to rise up. And we talk about attacking it, and that's what we did last year when Carson was injured. We challenged everybody. You attack it. There's no reason to feel sorry for us. Nobody in the Valley is going to feel sorry for us. So we have to attack it. And defensively, Matt Plank will step in. Defensive line, we got to play even better. Secondary, we got to play even better. MJ, Pierre, you guys got to raise your level. Offensively, everybody on offense has to raise their level. But I just feel awful for the kid, just like I felt awful for Carson, just like I felt awful for Grant and Travis Beck and so on and so forth. But ultimately, that's why I think this program, that's why I know this program is where it is today, is because the next man is always ready to step up. And more importantly, the guys in that locker room are confident in the next man.
When was the decision made?
When was the decision made? Really after this game.
Coach, do you have an exact diagnosis or exactly what they're going to repair?
I know he's got a torn labrum and there's something else, but let's maybe let the docs handle that. And I think next week is when we'll let Nick talk. Let's let him get through this week with his surgery pending early in the week, and we'll figure it out next week.
When did you tell the team, and what was their reaction?
We haven't. The team kind of is starting to gain some things, but we'll visit with the team here today and tomorrow.
Coach, I don't even know if this is a question, what the question is. 14 tackles on that bum shoulder. What does that even say about the performance a couple of weeks ago, the fact that he can do that?
He's an unbelievably tough physical kid that wanted to play and wanted to give it a shot. You work so hard for every year. You work so hard for your senior year, and to have it taken away like that is a tough pill to swallow. Now, the difference between Nick and what Carson had was Nick didn't redshirt. So we're also aware that if we do the surgery and he decides to come back, that we're right at the cusp of the 30% rule, and we have to take our chances that they'll grant him a medical redshirt.
I'm confident you hear that from the NCAA on that.
I'm fairly confident in that when they document everything with the surgery and the problems that the last 2 weeks of it subluxing and stuff, and that it's just not going to hold up, that we're very hopeful that he'll get his year back.
What if this happens in November or December? Does he maybe decide to play through it? Or I'm just curious, like the timeline on this and how that would have affected a decision like this.
It didn't happen, so I can't answer that, Brian. I mean, it happened now, and it's 4 to 6 months, and we'll take it from there.
Matt's play against Charleston Southern give you a little more confidence to say for Nick to go and do this?
Yeah, well, Matt Plank's just a good football player, and Coach Ince will have him ready to play. Matt's been in our program an awful long time, and it's his opportunity. And so I'm very confident. The football team will be very confident in what Matt Plank can do.
Coach, the exposure after the win on Saturday, is it similar to anything you've experienced here? I look at maybe the basketball win of Oklahoma to see kind of nationwide exposure here.
Yeah, from a football standpoint, it's big as it's been, I think. Not as big as the Carson Wentz of last year throughout the winter and the spring and the draft. But obviously, our players and our coaches deserve all the attention we're getting because of how well that the plans were and how well the guys played.
You touched on it a little bit, Coach. I know you plan to win every game, but when you saw that non-conference schedule, the fact that you can go 3-0, what does that say? Did you really think you could do that coming into the year?
Well, we don't ever put the schedule in chunks like that. We were just trying to win the first game and then get through that and try to win the second game and so forth. But we knew it was going to be a tough task. But like I say, we're going to try to focus on going 1-0 for this week. And we don't even play a game, but we're trying to go 1-0 to get ourselves ready to play the Valley. But it was no question it was a tough non-conference schedule, which will lead us into this week's practice, where a lot of guys that haven't played many snaps or just on a few special team snaps, we're going to have to make it a game for those guys. We're going to scrimmage a little bit with some of the guys that haven't had the opportunity to have live snaps yet, and we'll shelve a number of guys this week that have played 3 really tough physical games so that we can work on our depth.
Is this bye coming at a good time? I mean, those were big boys at Iowa. People probably beat up. Anything real significant injury-wise besides Nick?
No, a lot of bumps and bruises. A lot of guys that will need 3 or 4 days, but absolutely, I think this bye comes at a great time for us because it allows you another week to prepare for your first conference opponent. And let's not forget that conference opponent has shared the last 2 Valley titles with us, and the last time we saw those guys was on a pretty unique stage. So it comes at a really good time for us.
Gene Tucker show up on tape as much as he seemed to show up on every big play on the field?
Yep, he's playing at a really high level, and for us to be successful and continue playing well on defense, Pierre has to be an integral part of that. That position in general, all 3 of our linebackers, but specifically that Bear linebacker for us has to be a difference maker.
I know it seems like you have to talk about this every week, but how impressive was Easton? I mean, the way he was getting hit and how he's a sophomore. What do you think about the game?
Yeah, and I think you hit it on the head. He's just a sophomore, and everybody has to realize that. Now he's played 11 games. He's had a lot of success in those 11 games, but he's continuing to get better. He's continuing to grow as a football player. He's continuing to feel more comfortable within our offense, and he changed a couple of plays that did a phenomenal job of getting us in the right call, as well as, yeah, he was getting hit. One time I went out there and said, you can get down, you can get out of bounds, protect you. And he said, Coach, we're winning this game, and I'm going to do everything I can to get us to do that. So that's what you love about the kid. He's just such a competitor, and the stage isn't too big for him. And now, where did he learn that? Well, you guys can put 2 and 2 together.
What does Saturday mean for when you go start recruiting this week and next?
Well, we're on a national stage like we have been. We're still, let's be real on this, we're still not beating Iowa, Minnesota, Nebraska, Wisconsin on recruits. You'd like to think we're in the conversation, but it's still difficult. I mean, it's just hard to beat a Big Ten school. You hope it allows us to compete better with the people we need to compete with, which is the high-level mid-majors.
Maybe you answered this on Saturday, but back to Easton, when Tim called that draw in the 4th quarter, did you know that was coming? Were you ready for that as a head coach?
Ready for him to answer the bell on the play that much, or what? I mean, just I was listening, but I was so locked in on a lot of different things that I just saw when Easton took off and ran how fast he looked for it being 2 minutes left, and he'd taken the shots that he had, which is a credit to Easton, and even a bigger credit, and we haven't even talked about it, to Jim Kramer and the strength and conditioning staff for having him ready to play for 4 full quarters and 60 minutes, and I thought he looked really fresh on the play.
How big a deal is it Illinois State has to play on the road against the Valley opponent before you guys see them next
Yeah,
time?
I thought that was really interesting, and I haven't really talked to anybody on how that scheduling occurred. I know that both those 2, I believe, are open the last weekend then. So how or why that is done, I'm not sure, but I don't know. It may be an advantage because they get a Valley game under their belt, especially after a hard-fought, tough loss that they had against Eastern. It gives us a break for a week, but in the same respect, I think you can take the pros and cons either way.
With Nick going down, do you anticipate going back to more of a 4-2 nickel?
Something that we're going to work on this week to decide if we have another guy. We didn't have Eric Bachmeyer Saturday, so we weren't in any nickel. And Maybe Eric will be back, which will allow us. It's something that I know the coach Entz and the defensive staff are going to look at hard this week on some of these practices where we're going to move some guys around, because you take Nick out of there, not only do you lose your senior leader at backer, but you lose some special teams snaps as well, and we have to find some other guys.
What's the biggest difference you've seen in Cam from last year to now, hitting a game tying and a game winning field?
Pretty special moments for him, especially, everybody wants to talk about the young man's struggles in the playoffs last year. Let's not forget that kid was an 18-year-old freshman in college that probably shouldn't even have been in the spotlight, but because of our kicking issues, when we came back from Montana, we just, boom, you're the starter. And he's improved, and that's the thing that is so important for everybody to recognize is these guys are young, they're continuing to develop, and they're going to improve. And Cam is a prime example of a guy that continues to improve on a daily basis, weekly basis. And what he did the week before getting us to overtime, I don't care if it's a 50-yarder or a chip shot. That's a big-time field goal that he hit against Eastern Washington, which I know gave him some confidence even this week. He missed a long field goal in the game earlier, and that's not his fault. That's as much my fault. The wind swirled so much down in there. One time we're thinking we're with the wind, the next time we're against it, and that doesn't faze him. And that's the neat thing about Cam, is it didn't faze him that he did miss the field goal. And also, let's credit Cole Davis and Fish as well for good snap, great hold, and great protection on it.
What's the advantage of opening up Valley play at home?
It's a home game. I'm really they're going to even out one way or another with 4-4. So it's just how the schedule lays this year, and we'll be able to get into the Fargo Dome and work on Gate City Bank Field this week, and I think that's a big advantage to us to just stay on our surface. But it's an opportunity to play at home, and we have to cherish those opportunities.
Would it make a difference?
Made a really big difference. He had the one bad snap, and Austin will get that cleaned up, but his physicality really was on display. His leadership, the comfort level with the guys around him, I was really impressed with the way the entire offensive line played. I mean, we did a phenomenal job of creating some running lanes for our running backs and for Easton, and our backs ran exceptionally hard.
You were on ESPN this morning. Are you aware of any contact between the two for potentially October 1st and game day?
Not a bit.
Coach, is the book still closed now on red shirts with Nick's injury, or is that something you revisit at all?
Well, that position was one that we were pretty solid with, because we do have a lot of backers, between Levi and Dan and Chris Board and Plank. We still feel really good about that position.
It's a bye week. You get to watch Monday Night Football?
Absolutely. Excited to watch Carson play. I know that the entire staff is. And we'll see what he can do on the big stage. I know that him playing his first road game, and it being Monday Night Football, he texted us right after the game how excited he was. It was neat, the amount of texts that you get from the former players that are in the NFL, how proud they are to be Bison, and it was pretty neat. So I'm excited to watch him.
Chris seems to take care of penalties pretty well.
I thought we played a really clean game. MJ had the one penalty, which was close, but they're always going to protect a quarterback, especially on the tight sidelines, and something that we've talked about a lot, both sides of the ball, as well as on special teams, that in all games, and all games are big. Let's not say in a big game. In all games, we have to be able to play a little bit more clean football.
Were you doing anything else differently blocking-wise anywhere against Eastern Washington?
Nope, did the exact same thing, and you can watch the film, and the exact same blocks occurred.